So describing what a URL is rather than just the HTML itself. So some best practices when it comes to PDF is beginning your document from an accessible standpoint. So at times, PDFs can be a little more manual to make accessible. Therefore, tools such as Microsoft Office products, Google products, Canva are able to enable some of these accessibility features. For example, tagging, reading order that export well to PDF and allow it to be a compliant format by the time it's transferred over. Applying POUR principles, which is perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust, and WCAG guidelines when creating content are also a great practice. As a refresher, we have a lot of information on our BCIU Unify site that dives into what the POUR principles are, what they mean, as well as some general WCAG guidelines. Running accessibility checkers both before and after exporting to PDF formats are very helpful. Accessibility checkers are tools that can help you identify areas of compliance that you might be missing, that might not be noticed with a visual check. So these tools are always recommended. Another great practice is using digital options when possible. So if having an excessive amount of information or something that could lend itself well to a digital format, such as a web page, is much easier for assistive technology to use at times than a PDF document. So some common issues to avoid when working with PDFs is utilizing scanned documents. So many times I have scanned a document, on the printer or something, used that image of the text and shared it out. Really, we should be leaning towards optical character recognition, also known as OCR. So what this does is it takes a scanned document and makes it machine readable. So rather than recognizing it as an image, it will be translated into actual text where the lines can be read one by one. It can be edited, altered. Most of our printers at the BCIU are compatible with OCR. So if you're scanning, most documents should be able to convert. Adobe also has tools that allow you to run OCR as well. We'll go over those as well in the demo today. Visual only cues. So when possible, avoid relying solely on color or position to convey information. So some examples of this are use the green button to get here. Please see the information in red. These are all visual cues, and instead, when using a PDF, you really want to lean into the formatting and some of those headers and the navigational pieces. So, using lists or different heading options to convey information, being more descriptive rather than just visual cues, is a great place to work towards compliance. Avoiding complex layouts where possible is also recommended in a PDF. So, as far as creating a compliant document or remediating one, sometimes a simpler version is a lot easier to work with. Complex layouts can heavily impact reading order and tagging within a PDF document. So, an example of this is using a lot of infographics in a PDF document, relying again on visual, more graphic elements, and instead focusing on putting the information first and thinking about how it will be interpreted by assistive technology and a screen reader. Another recommendation is to avoid using save as PDF functions. For example, if you're on a web page and you want to save it as a PDF and kind of share a screenshot of that site, it's much easier to just simply send the URL instead using a descriptive hyperlink and trying to avoid using that PDF version. So many of us use PDFs. It's one of the most commonly circulated documents I see around our organization. So it can be difficult to wrap our minds around how to best prioritize this. Where do you start with fixing PDFs, creating PDFs, and figuring out which areas will be most impacted by compliance guidelines? So, our recommendation as high priority items would be front facing and currently used documents. So, if it's something that's highly visible, such as on a public website, a document that can be accessed at any time, it is definitely recommended to ensure that that is compliant. Files that are being shared with the public, including students, parents, school communities, and other community members, would be a great area to focus as well as they're heavily circulated. They're seen by many people. Sometimes we don't always see the scope of where that document goes. So it's great to ensure compliance so that it's accessible wherever it may land. Also, internal files that are being shared organization-wide should also be compliant as much as possible. Some of the lower priority items would be things that are behind a password protected site. While we would love everything to be 100% compliant, the front-facing things should take priority as we work to remediate things that are behind password protected sites, as well as documents that are being shared between a small internal work group. As a note, old files that are currently being used or archived do not need to be remediated. If they are being recirculated or they get updated, they will need to be made compliant at that time. So for example, if I have an agenda from 2023 that was posted on the website, 3 years ago, and I'm not picking it back up, we're not having that meeting again. It's really just for reference, that would not to be need to be remediated. But if I'm using the same template for a meeting that's coming up this month, before I sent it out, I would need to make sure that that document was compliant. Now, there are specific guidelines for something that does not need to be remediated. There are four non-negotiables. So when thinking about, am I required to make my old content accessible? If it was created before April 24th, 2026, if it's kept only for reference, research, or record keeping, if it has not been altered or updated since it was archived, and if it's organized and stored in a dedicated area for archived content, then it does not need to be made accessible. Only if these four things are true. If any of them are not, we would recommend bringing it up to compliance standards. All right. So I think PDFs will certainly learn best through a visual aspect. So I want to make sure that we leave a lot of time for Marcelle to do her demonstrations. So again, if you don't have Adobe Acrobat Pro, we encourage you to reach out to IT with a ticket requesting the software. In addition, we're always available via email, as well as Marcelle offers booking hours, office hours through her calendar, where you can have one-on-one time with us to go through a document directly, get tips and tricks related to WCAG compliance. So we're always happy to provide support if you have documents that you'd like to remediate after today, and you need some assistance getting going with some of these principles that you're learning. We're always happy to help. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Marcelle.
Okay, so I am going to start by sharing my screen. Okay, so today I have two demos for you. And you might be saying, oh, why are you in Microsoft Word? Well, one of the reasons I'm in Microsoft Word is that I want to show you that it's easier to create a compliant Adobe PDF if you start in Microsoft Word. So that's why we're in Microsoft Word right now. I'm going to show you how to set up the workspace in Word, how to do a review of the structure and the headings and lists and things like that in your document, how to add alternative text to graphics in case maybe you need a refresher on that, how to create an accessible table, how to set the title and the language for your document. We're going to review font and color and how to use the accessibility checker before converting your document to a PDF. And finally, how to convert your document to an accessible PDF. So I already have a document open here in Microsoft Word. It's the document you're looking at. And the first thing we need to do before we get started with this document is to set up the workspace, right? So the first thing I want to do is turn on formatting marks. Formatting marks are the marks that are placed in your document that most times are just invisible. We don't even see them. So I'm going to show you how to turn them on. And once I turn them on, you'll see them and you'll see it'll make editing the document and making it compliant easier. So the first thing I want to do is go on the file in Microsoft Word. And then the last option at the bottom here on this left panel is options. I'm going to click on display and I'm going to say show all formatting marks. And then I'm going to click on OK. So now we're back in the document. And as you can see, the formatting marks are all now here. Next, you need to make sure that you have the PDF Maker installed and enabled in the Word ribbon in Windows. So the PDF Maker up here, you don't really need to do anything. It should be there automatically once you have Adobe Acrobat installed on your computer. It is generally located at this main menu up here. If, for example, you don't see it, you can't locate it, it may be because you don't have Adobe Pro on your computer. And if you need help locating it, just ask him or I, and we could assist you with that. So I'm going to click here just so you can see this toolbar is here. We're going to come back and look at this toolbar. But this is going to be critical to making sure that we can export our Word document as an accessible PDF. So our workspace has been configured. We've turned on the marks, and we're ready to go. So adhering to accessibility structure will make it easier for you to have a final PDF product that is accessible. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that our heading styles are correctly in place. So that we can create a clear document hierarchy. This allows screen readers to navigate the document structure. So the first thing you want to do is open the Styles dialog box to see that the text is tagged correctly. So the first thing I'm going to do right now is I'm going to come up to the Styles menu here. I'm going to click on this little down caret, and you get this box here. It makes it really easy for you now to assign the style to the text. So the first line here, this is my header 1. So I'm going to assign it header 1. Once I assigned it header 1, if you notice, it has a different font and a different color. And I can change that font and color later if I want. The next header here is attendance, and I'm going to highlight this now. Attendance is a subheader of my header 1. So this is now going to become header 2. The next header I have is going to be instructional time. And instructional time is also a subheader of Berks Online Learning requirements. So that is also going to be header 2. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. Now, holiday schedule is a subheader of instructional time, not a subheader of Berks Online Learning requirements. It's kind of nested under there. So this now is assigned my header 3. Daily schedule is the same thing, assigned header 3. So looking now, you can see I have my first header, header 1, header 2, header 2, header 3, header 3. So my header structure is all in place. A screen reader coming into my document will know this is the first thing it should read, this is the second thing it should read. The text has already been assigned as normal, and it knows that this is just the body of my text. This is just text to read. The next set of text that we want to look at in terms of the structure of this document is the text I have on the holiday schedule. So when I look at this text, this is like a list, a bulleted list, but it's just text right now. It has no style assigned to it. So I can easily just highlight this. Back up here on the paragraph menu, I'm just going to go ahead and choose to assign it a style. paragraphs, the bullets. So now it's assigned bullets. The second problem with this text is going to be the color. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to I'm going to come here and I'm going to click on the little caret next to the A. And now Microsoft Word has this option where you can choose high contrast or only. When I turn on high contrast early, it's showing me only colors that are already set up to be high color contrast. So I don't have to worry about color contrast once I have this on. So I'm just going to pick one of these colors. So I've taken care of the color contrast. I've taken care of adding the bullets correctly to this section of my document. Now let's talk about tables. It's important that tables also are accessible. You want to keep the structure of your table simple. Avoid merged or split cells, nested tables, things that cause confusion for screen readers. Avoid colors, small font, decorative fonts, italics, things like that. So we're going to fix this table. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to fix the font and the color. So I'm going to highlight the table, right? And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to choose a more accessible font. I'm just going to choose maybe like an Arial. And so I'm going to do that. And I'm just going to, and so I have an Arial font now, and I just have my normal font. It's not curly, it's not fancy, it's just a normal sans serif font. The last thing I need to do to make my table accessible is to put the cursor in the table anywhere, and it brings up the table design menu up here. When I click on table design, I need to add the check in the header row and the first column. And this tells the screen reader that I have a header row. And so basically I'm done. My document is now mostly accessible. I have a couple things I need to do before I'm ready to take it into Adobe PDF. So the document is structurally correct. One of the requirements of screen readers is to make sure every document has a title. The screen reader has to know what the title of your document is. So I'm going to do that by going to the View tab and clicking on Properties over here on the right. When I click on Properties, you get this menu. And here, I can add the title, which I already have. I can add the title to my document. Once I have the title add to my document, I can come back. It's going to save the title. I'm going to click back on the Review menu. And one of the things I want to bring to your attention, I don't think we've discussed this before, is the language. Most times, you're probably going to be creating content in English. And if that's the case, English is already set up as your language preference. However, if you're converting a document maybe to a different language for someone else, and you need to change it to Spanish, French, or something else, this is where you can tell the screen reader, my document is going to be in Spanish, not English. All of this is important for when the screen reader comes to read the text in your PDF. But since we're using English, I don't need to make any changes right now. So now is a good time to check the font and color of my document. So I'm looking at my document, everything looks good. There is one thing still missing that I haven't done. And I'm going to run my the accessibility checker, and let's see if the accessibility checker is going to tell me what that is. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to run my accessibility checker. And as you can see, it says missing all text. So any logos, any images you may have in your document will still require the alt text. So I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to call it BCIU logo. And I'm good to go. My document is technically accessible and ready for me to take over into Adobe. I'm going to turn off the paragraph markings now. And you can see it looks nice. It's ready to go. Before I do that, there's one more thing. Back with the paragraph markings. So all of these excessive paragraph marks I need to remove because the screen reader will read it as paragraph. There's no text there. It'll just read as paragraph. So I need to remove these kinds of excessive paragraph markings in my document. So I'm removing all of that. And I'm ready to go now. We're ready to go. And we just have to do a couple steps to get this document over to a PDF. Of course, there's lots of ways to make in your document a PDF. Some folks click on File, and you can say Save as Adobe PDF. I think most of us are used to doing it that way. I know I was doing it that way. Recently, I learned that the best way to do it is to click on the Acrobat menu and choose Create PDF. Before you do that, you'll need to click on the Preferences tab. And here you want to make sure that all of these checks are checked. It's very important that Enable Advanced Tagging has a check mark in it. So we're basically telling Microsoft Word, when you convert this document to Adobe, you need to tag this document correctly so a screen reader can read it as a PDF. So I'm going to click OK. And I am now ready to go. I'm ready to take my document to a PDF. So I'm going to come back on my Acrobat menu tab. I'm going to click Create PDF. And we're just going to say, this is going to add something now to it. And then we're going to say, Save. Magically, my document is being converted into an Adobe PDF document. Magically, it opens in Adobe PDF. Hopefully you're seeing that. And so here you are. Here's my document. I just made in Microsoft Word. I'm now in Adobe PDF Reader. As Kim mentioned earlier, you know that you have Adobe PDF Reader if you're getting this tool menu on the left. This is one of the ways of identifying, am I in Adobe Pro? On the left now, automatically this menu opens. And I have some options. The main option I want to show you is you can click on View More, and you get this option that says Prepare for Accessibility. So now I did create accessible document in Microsoft Word. However, it's still critical that you check the accessibility in Adobe PDF. So here I am going to choose Prepare for Accessibility. Once I do that, the first thing I'm going to look here is check for accessibility. So Adobe is going to automatically now check my document. There's this dialog box that comes up. You can just accept all the defaults in this dialog box, and then you can click Start Checking. It does it really quick if your document is mostly accessible. So this document that I created is mostly accessible. I get this panel on the side here that says Accessibility Checker. I do get a message saying the document has 2 issues. So I'm going to click on the little caret and it opens up. Almost every document, the Adobe is going to tell you to check the color contrast, which I've already done, so we're okay. And it also tells you something, it's called Reading Order. And I'm going to open the Reading Order menu because I want to show you what that looks like in a second. So I'm going to close the X. There's really 2 menu items over here that we want to bring to your attention today. The first one is going to be Fix the Reading Order. So when I click on Fix the Reading Order, I get this. Here's what Reading Order is. Reading Order tells a screen reader, here's a PDF. This is the first content I want you to read. I want you to read Berks Online Learning requirements first. Then I want you to read attendance. Then I want you to read this paragraph and that paragraph. It's critical that you tell the screen reader which paragraph you want it to read first. We wouldn't want the screen reader to come into this PDF and start reading January, February, March, April, May. It would make no sense to someone who was looking at the PDF. And so the purpose of Reading Order is to tell the screen reader the order in which you would like the content read. So there's a little side panel that I prefer to use. It's called Show Order Panel. And when I click on that, it gives me this nice panel on the side here, which shows me the structure of my document. When I click on the first item here, it tells me the first thing it sees in the document is the BCIU logo. Actually, there's this little paragraph thing that they put, but this is the first thing it's seeing here. The next thing it's going to see is the Berks Online Learning Requirements menu, which is what I wanted to read out loud. Then I wanted to read attendance. And so I can just cycle through it, and it goes through my document, and it's showing me, it's reading my document in the order in which I preferred and how I want it read. Okay? So that's how you know that your document is in the correct order. When I'm finished, I can just close the X, and it will close that panel, and I can come here and close the panel. So this document is now accessible. I can save it, and I can send it out as a PDF, confident that most screen readers and most times when someone reads this with a screen reader, it's going to be accessible. So this is why we're encouraging you to create in Microsoft Word. When you create in Microsoft Word, it makes it so much easier when you come into PDF. As you can see, I had to do minor changes, very minor thing. I didn't have to do much at all with this PDF to make it accessible in Adobe PDF. I do recognize that this is a simple PDF. Many of the PDFs we have here at the IU are more complicated. Many of the ones I see people do save as from websites, they're more complicated than the one I'm showing you. And so you may have to go through more steps than the steps I just showed you. And this brings me to my the last demo that I want to show you. And that is what it looks like when you have a PDF that is completely inaccessible and you have to remediate it and you've opened it in Adobe PDF. It's a already created PDF. So I'm going to switch to this PDF I have. So I already had this preloaded for you. So this is a PDF from that I have. It's a course syllabus. And we're going to look at this, and we're going to look at why it's not accessible. So we talked about the accessible menu over here. So I'm going to go back and say view more. And by the way, if you're going to be doing this often, you can just drag this menu item up on your menu bar so you don't have to keep clicking on view more. It would just be here. So I just dragged it up, and now I can say prepare for accessibility. And the first thing I want to do with this PDF is I'm going to say automatically tag my PDF. So it's going to start to tag the PDF. So my PDF is now tagged. The next thing before I do anything with these tags, the next thing I want to do is say just check for accessibility. So then I just start checking. It checks my document. So it tagged it, and now it checked it. And now it's telling me that I have 2 document issues. So by tagging my PDF using the PDF checker, it removed a lot. The PDF checker tagged my document. So now it's more accessible than if I hadn't done so. All right. It showed me that I have a couple problems, but it's not a lot. The main issue in this PDF is the alternative text. It's missing from up here. When I click on figure alternative text failed, it immediately will show me what I need to come and fix. So this, I can just right click on it. I can say fix. It highlighted accessible university to show me I need to fix that. So I'm just going to put in here accessible university. As my alt text. And now my PDF has been fixed. So I fixed that. I am going to go back again, and I'm going to say run the checker again to see if there's any issues. And it says it's completely passed. Now, once again, I recognize this is a simple PDF. It's not complicated. A lot of our PDFs at the IU might be more complicated with images and so on. And if that's the case, what we recommend that you do is when you open a PDF is go to the main menu, and you can say export the PDF as a Microsoft Word document. Here, which is what I'm going to do. Export it as a Microsoft Word document. It's going to do the magic again, and it's going to convert it from Adobe and bring it back into Microsoft Office, Microsoft Word. So this is the same PDF that was in Adobe PDF. I just saved it in Microsoft Word. And now if it was more complicated, I could work with it better in here because I can just run the accessibility checker like I'm used to doing and make my changes if I had any changes I had to make. So you can imagine if this was a more complicated PDF, Microsoft Word would be so much more helpful than trying to fix it in Adobe PDF. Now, I know this was a lot of steps that I showed you today, and we are going to have a document on our Unify site, and we are going to have more resources on how you can remediate PDFs and how you can create your Word document and make it more accessible before taking it over to Microsoft Word. So I'm going to stop sharing for a moment now. I know that was a lot of content. I see a couple things in the chat. I'm going to pause for a moment. Kim, if you want to take the chat, I see there's some questions in there.
Yeah, I think Tony had her hand raised.
Thanks, sorry. Just a quick question. Marcelle, when you were in the Word document building it first, what's the difference between title and like heading one? Are they the same thing?
So it's a little controversial. However, we have decided that it makes more sense for people to use header one as the first, as the title, use header one, and then nest the other headers underneath header one. I think it makes more sense because sometimes if your document is complicated, you could get tripped up with title one, header one. You get tripped up with all of these options. So I think to simplify it, header one is the first thing, and then you nest the headers underneath it. Does that make sense? Because because in Microsoft Word, in the properties, you can go there and put the title. So does that make sense, Tony?
It does. Thank you. Yeah, that definitely helps. And then one other question on the PDF part. When you did the accessibility checker, it said about fixed reading order. When you looked at the fixed reading order, everything was in order, wasn't it?
Everything was in order because I ran the tags, and that's a simple PDF. But I can tell you, Kim and I have been remediating PDFs from the website and from almost every single office in the BCIU, and I haven't found any PDFs that are compliant, that are the reading order is correct. Right. That's just because I chose a simple PDF, I guess, to show you today, not wanting to overwhelm everyone with. But most times it's not going to be. Most times it's not going to be in order.
But didn't it come up saying that you had an issue, or did I not see that correctly?
It came up saying I had an issue, but that was all text that was missing.
Oh, okay. All right.
In the logo. Okay. Yeah, the alt text that's missing in the logo. So if you have any kind of logo, you still have to have the alt text. And if you have any image like on the, say a header, I see a lot of documents with headers or footers with, especially when we do footers with like maybe an image, or sometimes we have the document path or the document date. All of those things you have to take into consideration.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to what Marcelle was sharing, a lot of times if you're working with an old PDF and it has no document structure, the reading order will be wrong. I find it helpful to remember that assistive technology is like a machine. It doesn't have the intuitive ability to see formatted text and know what it is without those tags behind it. So designing in Microsoft, setting the structure kind of gives the instructions where there are less problems converting to a PDF. But if you run the accessibility checker in an old PDF, the reading order will probably be wrong because there's no tags, there's no structures that exist. So I don't know if that makes sense, but a lot of times it will require, kind of the human insight, the manual review to ensure the tags and the reading structure are accurate.
I have a quick question. Sometimes when obviously we're putting together documents, the design or the formatting is intentional. And Marcelle, when you assigned the style for the heading 3 for that the schedule, it left aligned it. If you would recenter align it, would it throw off the heading or throw off the style? Okay.
Not at all. And you can change those heading style things they're just presets in Microsoft. So if you so Amelia, say you always work in Microsoft Word and I always want my header 2 to be purple. You can actually go into styles and just say, and change header 2 and make it purple every time.
Okay.
You don't have to accept it, but yes, you can do left, center, whatever, after you've applied a style.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And one more thing to remove all those. Okay, I'm just gonna fess up and say this. I've found a lot of my old documents I'm fixing. I have a lot of things like, instead of doing the center, I have a lot of ... where I use the space bar to make the content center. I have a lot of those kinds of things. You need to remove all of those kind of extraneous things. And I should actually be using the center on my tab, on the formatting paragraph tab in Microsoft Word. I need to be using the formatting center instead of using my space bar, which I've done a lot.
I have a question about the table in your first document that you had.
Okay.
It was a schedule, and it looked like in your reading order, when you converted it to a PDF, it would read all the days of the week from left to right. What if you want it to read column 1 first and then column 2? Is there a way to edit that table once it's either before it's a PDF or after?
Yeah, I would edit it in the table formatter in Microsoft Word. In Microsoft Word, I would edit it right there on the... I'm looking to see if I have the document still open to go back to share with you.
I didn't see something that looked intuitive to change that.
Okay. Okay. So when you click on the table here, you get the table design. And actually, we'll want to go to the... I don't know, Kim, would you do text direction or something like that? No? That was Linda. Linda, that was you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know the screen reader will always read left to right.
Yes.
I would probably format the way that my table is displaying to accommodate WCAG. You could go in Adobe to edit the reading order and the tagging to see if you could manipulate it to read in the order that you want. But from my experience, the PDF will fail if it doesn't have table header defined. It sort of requires you to have that horizontal header.
Okay.
Linda, that's a good question. And I'm going to make a note of it, investigate, and get back to you, because that is a really good question.
Just because visually it makes sense to have the days across the top of the columns, I get that. But if it's going to read Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then go back and read the classes in order, that's not helpful.
Okay, I will investigate that. I will investigate, and either Kim or I will get back to you. This is all a big learning. This is a learning process for us, and so we learn something new every time.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this is great. This is a new. We'll learn this, and we'll convey the information. Any more questions? Well, just as a quick reminder, if you do not have Adobe Pro, you can submit a ticket to IT and request Adobe Pro on your computer. Once you have it, you will see the Acrobat menu item in Microsoft Word. If you open Microsoft Word and you're thinking to yourself, I don't see it, where is that? It's probably highly likely you do not have Adobe Pro on your computer. If you have Adobe Pro and you don't see it, I can show you where to find it, but it should be right there on your Word application when you open it. Now, if you're using this is Microsoft Word on your desktop, and I do want to say something about that. We do realize that there are people using Microsoft Word Office 365. There's people using Microsoft Word on a Mac. So you may have, while all of these things we're showing you is for the PC, it is still possible to do it on those applications. It's just that, we would have to have a 3-hour event to go into every application. So if you have that, please reach out to us. We're happy to show you and walk through it with your version that you have on your computer. We just can't account for all the versions. And then secondly, if you use Google Docs by default and not Microsoft Word, we could also help you with Google Docs. Just reach out to us and we can walk you through what that would look like for you. But I think the main takeaway for today, and Kim, you can feel free to chime in, is to start any new PDF in Microsoft Word and then convert it to PDF. If you have a PDF if you're at a website and you're tempted to right click and say save as a PDF, I encourage you not to do that. Instead of doing that, share the link where that information is located. Tell folks you can find this, application here at the BCIU website, something like that. Send them directly to the website if possible, because if you download it as a PDF, you save as a PDF, you will have to go back and remediate that PDF, and it sometimes can be very complicated. So if possible, don't do that anymore. Kim, any other words of wisdom?
Not too much. Today was really an introduction to tagging, creating page structure, which I know was a new concept for me. I was so used to creating headers by bolding and, making the font larger. So definitely recommend getting comfortable with using the style elements in Microsoft Word, getting comfortable with reviewing tags and reading order in PDFs, and then working from there accordingly. So we're always here to assist. There are also lots of great video tutorials online through Adobe that will upload a URL to our Unify site. And again, we encourage you to just continue reaching out, exploring the WCAG Unify site, and letting us know how we can support you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming today, and happy PDFing.
Thank you.